Now, something happened to us yesterday, and the only reason I want to talk about this today is because it segues quite nicely into our next video, which will be coming out in a couple of days, if indeed I do actually upload this one. If I don't upload this one, the next one will come out tomorrow. But if I don't upload this one, you won't know that the one that comes out tomorrow would originally have come out in a couple of days, and this one would have come out either later today or tomorrow. That being said, let's get on with the tale. Me and Molly were out yesterday and it was a lovely day, and we'd done our walk and we'd come back and we do what we always do. There's a wooden shelter next to Go Ape, which is like an adventure thing that's got like those flying things that you hang on and nets and things that you climb about in. Many people in the UK will be familiar with them, and probably people overseas, I don't know whether they're national or international. Anyways, that aside, so we're sitting under there, and I always sit on the edge, low down. It's just raised up enough off the ground to be comfortable to sit there with my knees bent. Molly was just behind me, just at the side of me, lying flat out on the side in the sunlight she always does, and it was kind of building up, it was getting busier, and people were walking past, people were saying hello occasionally, people were just going about the business, and I was sitting there in a world of my own, and I'd seen this girl get out of a car, an Uber, and kind of walk slowly. I noticed her because you can actually tell when somebody's not really sure of where they are. When somebody's familiar, like everybody who goes around there who we see every day, gets out of the car and just boof, heads off in the direction they want to go. Well, this girl looked a bit unfamiliar anyway. Dismissed that, and then she came walking towards us as if to walk down to the reservoir, and stopped in front of me, and I looked up and she was this incredibly beautiful black girl. I'd say black girl, probably a woman. I would say probably late 20s. I think I'd do an injustice if I said she was in her early 30s. Let's say late 20s. Absolutely stunning, and she had beautiful skin, and this hair was in braids, and it was tied back in like a loose ponytail, and it was done in very, very subtle streaks of like an almost black grey in it, and she was dressed in like matching top. She looked absolutely stunning. She was obviously wasn't dressed, even though she got this sparkling white sneakers on, trainers on. She obviously wasn't dressed for going tramping round the reservoir. And she looked down at me, she said, "Is this Lower House car park?" And I said, "Yeah, you know, are you waiting for somebody?" She said, "Have you seen anybody from the Bank of America?" Well, how would I know they were from the Bank of America? But obviously I said, well, no. I mean, as a lot of the people I've seen, there were familiar faces anyway. And I said, there's another barn, what they might be calling a house, about half a mile away. And I pointed up this road, which is a dead straight road up to this big hall at the top. Anyway, she thanked me and started walking away, and then I thought, this is Lower Barn car park. And my mind's going on, Lower House, that's familiar. And I thought, is Lower House what all the locals call Sheep House, which is a car park right in the middle of the countryside, 2 or 3 miles away? There's no way you can get to it unless you're in a car. So I looked on my phone, on my maps, and lo and behold, Lower House car park. And I thought, she's wandering about, this young woman, on her own in the middle of nowhere, dropped off by an Uber. Oh, I thought, God, and I've sent her in the wrong. I thought, I can't. So I got up as if to follow her and walked a few yards, and I thought, she's walking, I'm never going to catch up to her. She's quite a way off now. So I jumped in the car, threw Molly in the car, and I drove up. And I kind of intercepted her, and I just stopped the car, and I parked the car up, and I actually got out. And I walked over to her and she didn't recognise me at first, so she kind of looked at me and then kind of just looked away. And I just said, excuse me, I'm just giving directions. And she said, oh yeah. And I said, look, I've sent you the wrong way. This Lower House car park where you're meeting your friends is right out in the middle of the countryside. I said, you're never going to get to it. It's almost impossible. I said, are you sure they're there? And she said, yeah. You know, her English was brilliant. Her accent was very strong. I don't know where she came. It wasn't Nigerian. I've worked in Nigeria a lot. It wasn't, but her accent was very strong. But you know what it's like when you come in like a bit of a situation. No matter if English is your second tongue, or if anything is your second tongue, obviously you probably don't process things quite as quick. So I'm saying to her, do you want me to take, you know, do you want me to run you up there, thinking obviously she's going to say no, because why would you jump in the car with a strange man? But it was all I could say, because I thought I can't just leave her here. God knows anything could happen to her. And she just said, oh yeah, okay. So I thought, right. So I bundled Molly in the back, got in. We drove up to Lower House car park. Lower House car park is in the middle of nowhere. And it's like two car parks, one slightly above the other. Always about 40 cars. And it's where people set off to walk up to Rivington Pike, a local tower on the top of a local hill. And there are like follies and gardens, and it's a wonderfully landscaped place. It's a magical place, and lots of people go there. If you're ever in the north of England, look up Rivington Pike and go for a walk there. Give us a shout and I'll join you. Anyway, so we gets there, but her phone's dead. Because when I first met her, she said, oh, my phone's dead. I said, you're all right, bung it on my charger. I've got a charger in the car. Is it I said, is it a lightning connector? Because the new iPhones have a USB-C. Yeah, it's lightning. Right, there you go. Boom. So she's charging her phone, and her phone didn't seem to charge. I mean, mine charges quite quickly. She's having trouble getting through to anybody. I don't know whether the signal was bad, but she was trying to contact this bloke. And eventually we got to the car park, and she managed, but it was like 2 seconds and her phone was dead, and then 2 seconds and he was coming up. But her phone, because it was plugged in, came up on the screen on my phone, and it came up connected to the Wi-Fi on my phone, so I could see him there, and I could hear his voice quite loud, but I couldn't really tell that much what he was saying, because it was kind of, it's not the best sound in the world, and he had quite a deep voice, so it was a bit bassy, and it was like I was struggling to tell what he was saying. Anyway, he starts saying, oh, we're at Royton Road. And I went, Royton Road? I said, Royton Road is like another road up to this place, but it's on the other side of the village. It's like miles away. I said, is he on Royton Road? And she's saying, yeah, he is. I said, right, we'll go up to Royton Road. I said, we'll drive over there. So I turns around and drives off into the countryside, gets about half a mile, and I hear somebody say, Great Lawn. I could hear this over, she's talking, I hear somebody faintly say, Great Lawn. And it sounded like a local accent, a woman. And I said, has he just said Great, somebody said Great Lawn? She said, yeah. I said, oh God, the car park we were on is the quickest way to get to this place. That's probably where they did park up. So turns around, goes back up there. We've got this backwards and forwards going on. And she is getting a bit, because she's saying to him, send me a WhatsApp notification, location, which is easy enough to do. And she's saying, send it me. But then she kept reverting back into her own language. And it's like, you know, if you're talking in a second language, there's only so much you know. If you want to get fruity, if you want to express yourself, you know, it's better off just to. So I think she was giving him a telling off, you know. But the best way to do it was just to talk in a language where you knew more fruity words and more insulting words. Anyway, she's going in and out of this, and I can hear him, and he's saying, we're up steps, there's no point coming. And I thought, there's no point, you can't just say there's no point coming. She's here in the middle of nowhere. I would have to, she came from Manchester. I asked her where she comes. She came from Manchester, she come miles. I would have had to actually either run her back there or run her at least into the middle of Horwich or the middle of Bolton or somewhere at least where it's civilised, where you could get an Uber. You know, I couldn't have left her there. If it had left her there, she'd have been there still, because it's literally in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, we've got this backwards and forwards going. Molly's getting hot in the back, and it's a boiling hot day. I put the back of the car up, I've given her drinks of water. She's still papping on about this. And I'm thinking, it's not that difficult. You know, we're not that... Surely you can, if somebody's... We've got all this technology, surely we can locate each other. Anyway, I hear this voice on the end. I can hear this, like a real English accent, a real local accent, a woman saying, I can just hear this. Couldn't tell what she was saying. I said, have you got a... I said, ask him, are they with a guide? And he said, yeah. I said, right. I said, put the guide on. Anyway, he kind of refused. He's still papping on. So I'm shouting across, are you on the Great Lawn? And I hear this English, this local like Bolton voice go, yeah, we are. And I said, right, get on this phone now. So she picks the phone up. And I said, right, I'm at the bottom gate. I'm going to send her, because I'd already given her directions of how to get up to the Great Lawn, but it's like all this pass through all this woodland, over all these bridges, it's difficult. And I said, right, I'm going to send her through this gate. We're on Sheep House car park. I'm going to send her through this gate now, up the track to the Seven Arch Bridge. And I was going to send her over the Seven Arch Bridge, up to the Italian Pond and the Pigeon Tower and the Great Lawns on your right-hand side. Not a little area, we're talking square miles here. And I said, can you make your way down to the Seven Arch Bridge and I'll send her up? Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And I'm like punching the air, because I said, we've done it. We've managed to do it. The day has been saved. You're going to get with your mates. It's all good, rather than, because I couldn't have left her. I mean, I couldn't, it's impossible, nobody could, because it's just like abandoning somebody on the top of a mountain. You couldn't do it. So I said, right, go through that path, through that gate, up there to the Seven Arch Bridge. You'll see it, it's a massive bridge in front of you, made up of arches underneath, and it's called the Seven Arch Bridge. I said, and somebody will be waiting for you there. So I gets Molly out and takes her for last, so she could have to have a wee on the car park, in the grass surrounding the car park. And she's sitting on phone, talking to this bloke. And I'm like, why is she not getting out and going up there? So I walks back, and I'm about 5 minutes, and I walks back to the car. And she's sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm standing outside, and I look down at her through the driver's side window, and she said, should I start walking now? And I'm like, well, yeah. Said they're going to be waiting for you. It was like this slightly breakdown in communication of it, really. Anyway, I stayed on the car park long enough. She walked across. She said a beautiful little goodbye to Molly. She was lovely. I mean, she was a lovely girl. And then I waited until I heard the bang of the gate. There's a little gate that you have to go through. And I waited until I heard the bang of the gate. And then that was it. We drove off then. I'd looked over my shoulder and I could see her walking up this path, this very wide, long climbing path that climbs up the side of the hill to the Seven Arch Bridge. And we drove away. The wind, it's quite warm, but it's very, 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 very windy all of a sudden. It's actually forecast this. So I hope it doesn't spoil the recording. But we then, it's like this started at about 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's now, I think it had gone 12 o'clock anyway. It had gone like the middle of the day. So we'd been at this for quite a while. But I drove away, and you know what? It was one of the best ways to spend the day. If I had to choose a way of spending my day, that would have been the way. Because what else would we have done? We'd have probably just wandered around more on our own, gone home, done a bit of housework and come out again. But we'd spent the day, the majority of the day. Because then we had another walk round, and then we had to get home, and then it was lunchtime for Molly and blah, blah, blah and all that. But we spent it in a way that I thought, that was brilliant. If I could do something like that every day, my life would be be complete, just helping somebody out and getting a buzz and seeing a smile at the end of it, a smile of, they started out with confusion and where am I, and I've lost my mates, and oh dear, how do we get to, at the end of the day, all being solved, off she goes with the mates, everybody's happy, and it was wonderful. I've never, you know, she doesn't know my name or any, I don't know hers, I just hope that she got to her friends. I'm absolutely sure she did, because you know they were. If the guide was coming down, she wouldn't have left it until she'd found it anyway. So everything turned out absolutely fine. It was just a wonderful day. Accomplishing something like that kind of put a bookmark on the day, made it just right. Could go home and have my cup of tea and my bacon sandwich and think, that was a good day. I'm happy with that. We helped somebody out and there's no better feeling. And I may put this up. I know it's just a rambling little tale, but it is just a segue into the next video, which I didn't know whether I was going to put up or not, because I don't know whether it kind of came across as anything specific or important. But having said that, now that I've this has happened and I've made this video, I'm going to put it up because it is significant, because the next video is called It's Nice to Be Nice, so be nice. It's a wonderful feeling, and I'm happy now, and I'm happy to see you all on the flip. Peace and love.